I would like to share the story of how I became a Methodist. The year was 1977. I was in veterinary school at the time at Ohio State, and I wanted to attend a service for Easter. I had not attended a church all the school year, and I seemed just led, let's go to an Easter service. The student newspaper had ads for 6 churches for Easter services, and one of them had a map, and that was King Avenue United Methodist Church. From the map, I could tell that it was not far from my apartment, and I could also tell how to get there. I had never been in a Methodist church before, so I knew nothing of how it worshiped. But I liked the message, I liked the hymns, I liked the prayers, and I especially liked the college group that met on Thursday nights and sang what I now realize were praise songs. I looked forward to returning to the church after summer break, and the morning was Sunday, September 26th, and I had just settled into my pew for the sermon when I saw a bright light coming from the chancel area, and the rays came on either side of me, and I rose up from the pew, and I was drawn to this light. The chancel area disappeared, and the pews and the people disappeared as well, and I was flying into the light. I do not remember hearing any sounds. The white rays comforted me, and I wanted them. I felt a joy beyond anything I have ever felt. After a while, the light dissolved, and the chancel area and the pulpit and the pews reappeared. I could hear that the sermon was ending and found myself perched at the edge of the pew with my back straight up. I turned to see the others sitting next to me, and they were sitting back in their pews normally, but they didn't seem to notice me. Embarrassed, I slid back into my pew, realizing I was a little out of breath. After the service, I saw one of my classmates, and I said to him, "Wasn't that a fascinating sermon?" And he said, "Yes, it was." And he began to tell me a little bit about the sermon. And I realized I hadn't heard anything of the sermon. And I wondered where I had gone. When I got back to my apartment, I decided I would call the church office the next morning. And I had 2 requests. The first was to get a copy of the sermon. I wanted to find out what was in the sermon and maybe why I'd had that experience. And the second thing was that I wanted to join that church, because if that church could do that, I wanted to be part of it. So I still have a copy of that sermon from September 26, 1977. And the scripture is Matthew 6, verses 19 to 21. And the scripture goes that we are not to lay up our treasures on earth, but we're to lay up our treasures in heaven. I realized I had seen a little bit of heaven, and it's what I wanted. Oh yes, I did join that church that fall.